Hello and welcome to Wisdom in Action, the podcast where we explore what it takes to bridge the gap between knowing and doing, because that's where the real wisdom is born. I'm Oscar Putin, a resilience coach and podcast strategist. I created this space to have honest conversations with real experts and bring you practical insights you can apply, not just think about. Today, we're joined by Wayne Parkin, a holistic healthcare practitioner with over 2 decades of experience blending naturopathy, spirituality, and substance misuse support into a powerful whole person approach to healing. Wayne, welcome to Wisdom in Action.
Thank you for having me.
It's
It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah.
It's a pleasure to have you on, and it's our first episode, so no pressure.
That's exciting.
It is.
That is so exciting.
So, Wayne, let's start with getting into a bit of you as well. What is one piece of wisdom that changed everything once you started applying it?
Oh, where do I start? I think the biggest piece of wisdom that seemed to be coming through to me quite a lot was you're meant to be where you are meant to be. And there's been quite a few different times throughout life where that's kind of been a bit of a sucky place to be, really. But and also having that, there's also been the element of, well, if I'm not liking where I'm at, then need to change something. And quite often, if you don't change it, something else will happen that forces you to change it. And I guess one of the really great for me, one of my great examples was I was working in a role and I'd been there for quite some time. And I'd gone through and had done a lot of study around naturopathy, drug and alcohol misuse, and all that type of stuff. And I wanted to get more into a bit more of a counselling role with that group of people. And where I was great. It was a lot of harm minimization. It was still working with people experiencing drug misuse problems and all that type of stuff. But I'd actually outgrown that place. And I got made redundant, which kind of left me in a bit of a half a spin. But as I was going through that process of being made redundant, applying for jobs, and within the end of my redundancy period, I'd actually found a new job. And the way that came to me was putting in the effort. But I knew probably 2 or 3 weeks before I knew I had that job that I actually had that job. Because I was out being really worried. My partner took me out for a bit of a weekend trip. And we're at this really nice place in Melbourne, Australia called the 12 Apostles. And there was a rainbow over the 12 Apostles. And it's like, you know what, everything's going to be okay. And it did turn out to be that way. And that's probably one of many experiences that I can kind of say that just by following that curiosity and following your inner GPS system, that things will actually come to you. And it's a scary move to take those next steps, but sometimes it's needed.
Yeah, that in itself, I actually want to dig into it. So with following curiosity, that's a big one. Curiosity is one of the things that I think a lot of people would describe me as like really curious. And I even I have this thing that I keep saying it all the time. And because a lot of times I was thinking, why do people share stuff with me? Why do they trust me and open up to me? Because it has been like a pattern since I was like really young. And I realized there's many pieces to it, but one thing that I understood, which is true not only to approaching others but ourselves as well, is that I was approaching them with curiosity instead of judgment. And with curiosity, It's kind of like you gather the data, you gather the information, and once you have it, that's when you can judge it. But by the time you have it, you understand it, so there's no place for judgment. And question I had was, when it comes to curiosity, and especially following that internal GPS, I think like a lot of things when it comes to applying things in real life, easier said than done because you have all these external forces, expectations, conditioning, what society expects from you. How to first actually get in touch with that GPS, and then next to actually trust it.
So I didn't come from a premise that we are already in touch with it. That we already know what that GPS is telling us. Where we get stuck, or where I've noticed where I get stuck, is when my GPS is telling me you go left, I'm saying, no, I want to go right. I have since learned that by following the GPS, you can have a lot more fun.
Okay. Can you expand on that?
Sure. So, like, I guess another all right, I'm letting a bit of a cat out of the bag here. I used to pole dance, and I got into that because a friend of mine said, "Oh, look, you're trying to get out of your comfort zone. You're trying to like just change things up a little bit. Give pole dancing a go." Now, I never imagined doing that in that arena or anything like that. But having the curiosity to go and just suss it out, not like going there being in that vulnerable space of being a learner, right? And being in a very female-dominated area and being a male, like, can be quite confronting. But that curiosity did shift a lot of those self-doubts and I guess those worries about what are other people thinking. Because when you're hanging upside down in the pole, you're not looking at everybody else. You're worrying about holding onto the pole. And then that's kind of led into other things. Like I now compete in Olympic weightlifting. Same thing. That was just a curiosity, something that I found that I liked, and started following that curiosity, and started off now competing in that. So, I guess coming back to, it's really having to challenge yourself and have, again, knowing that belief that you are where you are meant to be, and these opportunities are being presented so that you can A, learn more about you, B, challenge the ideas that you have about yourself and your life. And I guess that the other thought that's coming to my mind at the moment too is that, like, we might have ideas in our mind about where we're going or the end destination. And I think for a lot of us, we want to find the most direct route. If I just do this uni course, I'll get this job, blah, blah, and that type of stuff. And for me, that actually hasn't been my experience. My experience is I want to get to this point of being able to help people, and then following the little things that kind of excite me. And that's built up a library or a toolkit for me to kind of A, share with people, and B, has led down a few different rabbit holes to kind of be able to bring stuff together so that it's a nice, to be able to incorporate things in a holistic way.
I actually, a lot of what you're talking about, I have experienced it so much in my life as well, about that following curiosity, following what I feel drawn to, even if it on paper doesn't make sense sometimes.
Yep.
But it's I think that trusting piece to go there, and the reason why I asked about that, like how to actually connect with it, I think it might not be necessarily connect with it, but actually like listening and trusting it, because I think I see this a lot, where a lot of it is, let's say if I, like myself, last year I got into like doing triathlons, and I gave myself 90 days to prepare for half Ironman. No background in the sport, no nothing. Usually it takes like 6 to 8 months to prepare for it. And I
Yep.
barely finished half marathon in like 3 hours, like at the beginning of those 90 days. And I was like, well, I don't want to wait another year. I'm just going to sign up and see what happens.
Yep.
And ended up finishing it, learned so many lessons along the way. And I would have like people asking me like, are you like a pro triathlete now? I'm like, or what do you plan to do with it? I'm like, for me, it actually comes from way back, where I had this belief when I was training in basketball that I just can't run long distances. And then I got injured. I had like some back issues, and I literally was told by a doctor not to run ever. There was
Yep.
no reason of what's the actual problem, but it was like, it's better that you don't run. So I actually didn't run for like a few years, but I still had a strong belief I just can't run long distances. Then a few years ago, I watched the movie Brittany Runs Marathon, and I was like, well, if she can do it, I can as well. So literally, at the moment movie stopped, I found program, like 6 month program from like couch to
Yep.
marathon. A few months later, I actually finished my first half marathon, and I remember I was like, when I was back in UK, I was studying sports psychology there. I was in program to become a personal trainer. Do I plan to have career in
Yeah.
it? Not really. I was just curious. And there I met like one guy, where we ended up having a deal where like he would give me meal prep, and I would create him Ironman program. And I remember back then I was like, oh, it'd be so nice to do that, but I can't run. So I didn't even consider it for years because of that belief. And I
Mhm.
remember before I did my first half marathon, I said to my friend, well, if I finish half marathon, now half Ironman will be a possibility. Because after that
Mm.
point, I was like, I can't do it because of the running. And a lot of it
Yep.
is, it's kind of that, it's something that I talk a lot about in the other podcast, Chase the Impossible, that concept of, you identify what you feel is impossible for you, but then you question it, and then you challenge it, and you actually try to pursue it, instead of just, okay, I just can't do it because I just can't do it. And I think I'm really curious to hear your perspective on that, how to actually follow that curiosity, because even as I was doing the races, things like that, or many things that I have done, well, for one, people keep calling me crazy. And or they're like, why you have to do this, why you have to do all this stuff, or this much, or whatever might be the case. So like, for me, it actually, I'm looking back, I'm quite proud that I was able to connect. I was able to trust myself to the level where I was like, even if somebody outside of me or some external circumstances would tell me that it doesn't make sense, it's not the right thing to do, I still trusted myself, where I felt like it feels aligned with
Yep.
me, and I would still go for it. But how to actually listen to that when it actually is aligned, and you kind of know, but you have this external pressure of, maybe not, maybe this is not for you, and the whole stories.
Yep. So this is kind of human 101, I think, is that we quite often growing up, we're looking for validation from external sources, right? And we quite often think sometimes people with the lab coats and stethoscopes and all that, there's an element, and I'm not saying that we don't listen to them at all, but we also need to be maintain our own kind of idea about what's going on for us. And I think I kind of know actually that what we do, like our own actions, are going to seem crazy to some people, right? Just like some people's actions seem crazy to us,
Yeah.
right? And I have to keep coming back to, well, I know this is where I'm meant to be. This is my journey. and I've been put here because of my toolbox, I've been put here because of my experiences, I've been put in this spot for X, Y, and Z. Somebody on looking from that doesn't have the same resources, doesn't have the same life history, doesn't have the same life. So what might seem crazy to them might seem absolutely normal to me. What seems absolutely normal to me might seem absolutely crazy to them. So if we keep that in mind, it kind of buffers us from those external forces to an extent. So it gives us the ability to it gives us the ability to follow through on some of those ideas, even just tippy-toeing in the water.
With that,
And that's how.
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say that's how I would recommend anyone following their curiosity. It's not necessarily jumping in the deep end of the pool and not knowing how to swim. We start off in the kiddies pool, see if we like it. Then we go a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper and keep following it.
I actually, with this, I do see this a lot where it's so funny in some ways that a lot of times we have regrets even before we made a decision. We already think about the potential regrets we might have about making that decision. What I mean by that is that let's say somebody's at the crossroads of making a decision what career to have. And even before they made a decision, they already have regrets about that decision. And with that, I think a lot of times we can end up not making a decision because it seems easier. How to the question I would have there is even like with trying it out. It's something that, especially if it's something you haven't done it, even if you feel drawn to it, there still can be so much resistance towards doing it because it's unfamiliar.
Oh yeah.
Like how to even take that first step, even if it's tiny step, but it feels like the barrier towards taking it is so big sometimes.
All right. So this is kind of remind me. I was having a late night chat with a friend many years ago, and we were talking about this whole debacle of how do we break through some of the barriers in our life. And I guess coming from a bit more of a spiritual perspective, I ended up coming up with like these 4 keys. And the first one was faith. So that's kind of that belief in yourself and that belief in that if I'm here for a reason, and not necessarily having to do anything, but just having that. The second one was trust. So, and that to me is that knowing the way out, trusting that there is going to be a way out, trusting that I'll be looked after through getting through that. Then the clinch pin, the surrender. That good old word surrender that we all love and love to hate.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I think that's the buffer that you're talking about that wall that gets put up when people are starting putting in those ideas of, oh, but this might happen and that might happen and blah, 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 blah. And part of the surrendering process is like, well, that might happen, but I haven't actually thought about any of the good things that might happen. I actually haven't thought about what doors are actually going to open up for that from that. I don't know what tools I'm going to have. And sure, right now, when you're looking at that future goal of your job or sporting or life, with the current tools that you have, you might not be able to make some of those regrets that you're foreseeing not happen. But by the time you get there and you've gone through some of the other little challenges, you might have the tools to not actually have to have those regrets. So we're basing a future idea based on what we think we've got in the toolbox now. And I can tell you 99% of the people, even when they get to those challenges, they might not have the exact tool, but they might have other tools that they can MacGyver in to make that less challenging.
Yeah. Surrender is a big one. And I think it's really important in that equation because for me, like a few years ago, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, the final one is action.
Mm-hmm.
So actually acting on it.
With the like a few years ago, I read the book Surrender Experiment, and I don't even think I have finished it because I got what I needed from it, and I applied it pretty much like straight away because that's how I moved here. Like I'm currently in Estonia. I came to visit my friend here. I kind of liked it that weekend, and I knew that I wanted to move somewhere, but I didn't know where exactly because initially it was kind of that fell through, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna stay home. And after that weekend, she just messaged me like, "Oh, by the way, if you want to move, my friend is looking for somebody to rent a flat." And I was like, "It's literally like surrender. Do I have a plan? Do I have like clear outcome in mind? Not really, but it's like, okay, I guess I'm just gonna trust and go with it." And a lot of it has been also trusting myself and checking in with myself. Does it align? And even if it doesn't make sense to me outwardly or logically, does it actually aligns with me? Does it feel right, like the right decision? And then kind of trusting, or even like to use the word surrendering to that and to that experience and being open to it and taking action on
it. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but I've noticed this quite a few times that when you kind of get to that point of surrender, the doors that open seem effortless, as if everything just kind of flows.
Yeah.
And I kind of liken surrendering to is preparing to base jump off a cliff to realize it's a curb on the road.
That is so true. Ah, what does it feel like that?
Oh, I think I keep saying I think, but there's a knowing there about what I'm about to say, and every time we surrender, we find more parts of our own being, I guess, our own confidence, our own essence.
Okay, this is really interesting.
And having to surrender and having to follow that through means that we're going to be more empowered than what we just were. So there's an element of us being a little bit maybe apprehensive, fearful of being that little bit more empowered. What happens if I can't manage that level of empowerment?
Or also, if I have to let go some parts of me.
Yeah.
In the process, even some of them being my ego.
Yeah. Yep. And I think most of us have had that ego slap a few times.
More than few, I think. Yeah, because I think with that surrender, actually, like there was a thought that came to me as I was thinking about it as you were answering, is that I think big part of it also is that uncertainty, dealing with uncertainty, dealing with the unknown, because it feels so scary and it feels so big. I think it's really similar to shame, where shame is the emotion that makes us isolated and makes us shut down. But the moment that you share it, it's like it disappears. And I think it's really similar with that surrender, where before we surrender, it feels so scary because there's so much unknown into what will happen once I do or once I step into it. And maybe once we step into it, it's kind of like the light comes in and you start to see and you can calm down. And
the other thought that I wanted to reflect on around that, what you were just saying, was, sorry, I just had it and it's just gone, evaporated.
I was talking about the surrender, stepping into it, uncertainty.
Ah, yes. So the uncertainty is there or not, whether we built, like we're catastrophizing and making things worse, or in our own mind about all the regrets and all that what's going to happen after that. That doesn't take that uncertainty away from stepping down from that surrender.
Mm.
If anything, it's actually making the wall much worse.
Yeah.
Right. So we're always stepping into that unknown, and I guess having the courage to go, okay, well, yeah, they're potential outcomes. Again, I'm going to go back to the toolbox analogy that we had before. Yeah, looking at it from where I am at now, yeah, that does look like really challenging times. That might be tomorrow, it might be 6 months away, where I'll be in a very different spot. I'll have different people around me. I would have learnt more about me through everything else that I'm doing. So, yeah.
Actually, with this, I had an interesting question for you. When it comes to the personal transformation, like what does it actually look like day to day when you're in the middle of it? Because I think a lot of times what we hear about is before and after. Oh, I was like this, now I'm like that. But a lot of times that middle, it actually isn't like, oh, it's a week or like a few weeks. Sometimes it might even be years, even decades. What does it look like? Or yeah.
Do you know what? I don't believe that transformation is an endpoint. I believe that it's a constant growth. And just like everything else, some days are going to be really hard, gritty, challenging, in tears, beating your pillows, going, this isn't fair. And other days are going to be, oh, wow, like look at the flow, look at everything
Yeah.
going. Unfortunately, the process of transformation requires uncomfortability and learning to live with that uncomfortability.
With this, before we get into uncomfortability, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, and this is this what I mean by transferable tools. So people who are into sports, like running half marathons, that's not a very comfortable thing to do.
Yeah. Not super
Right?
convenient, painless.
Not super convenient, not super comfortable. And you've learned a lot about how you deal with that uncomfortableness. So the skills and resources that you've used in that sense of uncomfortableness can be used when you're going through transformation and other parts of uncomfortableness. So for me, it's really about trying to be a little bit smarter about how we get through some of the challenges around the transformation process.
With what you said, that it's a process, I so agree. And question I have is, why do we focus on the finish line then? Why are we so focused on when will it be done? Or that is the first question. And then what could help to shift the focus towards that process?
All right. So the biggest challenge about the finish line is that it's like chasing rainbows. To be honest, like you get to a certain point and then you find the next thing that needs to be transformed.
Yep.
Right. So the finish line feels like it's just been pushed away, pushed away, pushed away. What I think what's most helpful is being present, being grateful for the experiences that you're having today and at this moment, and accepting that process of change or transformation. Sometimes it's going to feel really slow, sometimes it's going to feel like you've made it, and everything in between is absolutely spot on for where you're meant to be.
Yeah.
We start running into trouble. It's like, oh, I'm stuck here forever, and it's like you've been stuck there for 2 days.
Yeah, we over exaggerate a lot of times, I think.
So, and also, even in those times, taking notice of when you slip out of those things. Because it's very easy to stay focused on, oh, I've been feeling like shit. Oh, I've been feeling crap for a few days.
Yeah.
But then it's like, oh, but were you feeling crap when you were watching that comedy? Oh, I wasn't feeling crap then. Okay, so kind of catching those small moments where things are just that little bit gentler or a little bit nicer or not perfect, even if it's just a little bit better, then go with that as a win.
Well, you kind of partly already are answering the next question I had, because you said about being present and grateful for what you have. How to how to be in that state when you're going through pain, you're going through really like
Mm,
hard period, and you feel like I have nothing to be grateful for, or like it's terrible. I'm in pain, or there might be like really like tragic things that somebody might be going through.
yeah.
How to how to have it or emulate it in those situations.
So first of all, I'd go acceptance.
Mm.
So accepting that these hard times are happening. I can't do much to change about what's actually going on. Is there anything that I can do to soften it?
Mm.
So we're very binary as humans. I find us very black and white and very binary, right? If I'm in pain, then I'm having a bad day. If I'm not in pain, I'm having a good day. Like, or if X, Y, and Z happens, and the question I'd have for people would be, is that a helpful way of thinking?
Mm.
Is the way I'm thinking actually helpful about where I'm at right now? Okay. So yes or no? Probably, possibly not. Okay. So then how can I manage this so that I can perhaps maybe turn the pain down a little bit? Do I need to speak to a chronic pain specialist? Do I need to link in with somebody that can kind of help me find a place of peace in the chaos in my world?
Mm. And then how to, because I could see that be done like once. How to do it continue. Like what helps to sustain it day to day to day to day to day.
So that's really about maintenance.
Mm.
Once we start getting into a routine and start getting like anything else in our life, we need to go through and maintain that, which means making sure our self care is taken care of, making sure we're doing all the little steps that are necessary for us to make it through moment by moment, day by day, whatever it is that we need to get through. Which, like most things, take consistency, discipline.
Consistency and discipline are big ones, especially consistency. And it's something that I was going through that to some extent still am. I don't think I'm immune to that or like to being human where I would be like, for things to count, they have to be big. So like with consistency, I don't call them habits, I call them baby steps. So I take every day, I have baby steps that I'm taking every day. Like those are action steps that are taking me closer to the goal. And I like I want to get them done every day. Like one of them right now is like 5 minute core. Every day I do 5 minute core. Um and before, like some years ago, I'd be like, well, it's nothing, it doesn't count. But it adds up. And I know that
Yes.
it's kind of the way I describe it is to make it so small that it seems ridiculous not to do it, kind of thing. Like my friend had a really good one for reading. Open a book. That's it. That's what you need to do every day. Open a book.
Yeah. And the practice of consistency is going to rewire the brain in order for that to happen automatically.
Yeah.
Again, there's going to be people out there that are probably going to be 100% disciplined, black and white down the line. If I forget a day, life's lost. I'm a failure. I'm this, I'm that. So again, coming back to a point of having a few ideas of how to be gentle with ourselves. There's two that I tend to play around with or work with. It's an 80-20 rule. Mm-hmm. So if I'm disciplined 80% of the time, I can have 20% bit of leeway, which is a really nice balance. And the other one I heard was from an athlete listening to the radio one day. They had the rule of thirds. So having this idea of a third of whatever you're doing is going to be great, a third of it's going to be horrible, and a third of it's going to be mediocre.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
I think that's the main piece, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you. Yeah, go
All the
ahead.
segments are okay. All the segments are okay.
Yeah. It's so interesting, our like relationship with the negative. I wanted to ask you about the parallel process as a way of making progress.
Yeah, I kind of touched on it a little bit before.
Okay.
Right? So quite often when we're going through life, we're going through processes of where we're doing transformation, whether it's work related, whether it's study, whether it's health, fitness, whatever. And each of those areas, even though they're different, there's similar patterns to what's required.
Oh.
Right? So I like to use fitness because I feel like that's a very easy one to kind of go, you know, in the middle of a workout, in the middle of a run, you're feeling like crap and you've got to manage that. Use those skills when life's feeling crap.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I mean by parallel processes is it's looking for the links that parallel what you're experiencing at the moment.
I also could see this as something that can help with viewing us in different ways. So let's say there's somebody who's like, oh, I'm not consistent, I'm not disciplined. But if you look at this area of your life where you have been consistent, and it's like,
Yep.
actually, it's not true. You just focus on this area where you're not instead of where you actually are.
Yeah. And then that can open up that really nice discussion of how can we implement that over in this area.
Yeah. It's I actually talk a lot about it with cold as well. Like I'm doing cold exposure, like winter swims, things like that.
Yep.
And even when I talk about it, I'm like, using it as a way to, you intentionally put yourself in an uncomfortable situation, stressful situation. But even with cold shower, in that moment when you're about to turn it cold, you voluntarily put yourself in an uncomfortable situation, and you build your muscle of resilience and actually facing the discomfort. Because, and it's like, oh, what is it like cold well, there's plenty of benefits, health benefits, but for me, I do it a lot for like the mental game. and you can transfer those skills that you learn into other areas as well.
Yep, 100%. And I think a lot of people just think some of those skills, oh, that's just for the fitness area, or that's just for X, Y, and Z. When you think about the process behind them, there's usually something you can bring across. That's a like for like.
Do you know what is getting in the way of actually seeing it that way or cross them over?
Again, we're very compartmentalized. We like to have things in its own little boxes, and that's this little box, that's this little box, that's this little box.
Is there
We
some?
like to be neat freaks. We like to have everything in its box and don't necessarily see things going into other boxes.
Could it also be related to wanting to have control?
Well, control's really we're talking about the management of power. And the management of our own power and perceived power. That's a good question. Why do we put everything into its own little box and not necessarily cross them over?
Because like my thought with that power was like, if now they come together, I can't control them, or I can't have them like this box, that box. Like that is kind of my thought. But like now I feel
Out of control.
Yeah.
Because
And that's my way.
everything's
Like that would be like the way of controlling. This is there. This is there. This is there.
Look, I think for some people, again, some people, I've got a classic person that I've got in my mind about this one. To the point when we occasionally build Lego sets together, and even to the point we've got to put the Lego person where it's in the book. We can't put them anywhere else. And part of that is the uncomfortableness of having crossover. It starts to create too many options.
Yeah.
Right. And for some people, having too many options can feel like overload.
Is there a way, or maybe you have found in your experience a way to have it all together and be okay? Like, actually, I have a good example with this with my coaching. I remember when I was in UK, I was literally like walking up the stairs, and one of my friends said to me, "Oh, like you're actually funny," and I'm like, "Yeah." And I remember it made me think that I was like, when I show up online, things like that, I have to be this like serious coach, because like it's serious. I'm helping people. But then when I thought about it with my clients, we would have fun. We would be like joking around. A lot of times we would be laughing. And I was like, in my mind, I was like, I have to set them aside. Like, this is professional and this is like me kind of thing. Instead of actually integrating, and not even actually integrating, I was already doing that because it was me who was working with those people. But in my mind, I was like, they have to be separate. Kind of like trying to control the one is not even identity, the way I would be perceived from like others.
So my mind actually there is going into like, that's probably a good example of how being authentic. So by being that humorous self and that coaching style worked really well for you, right? Rather than the old style coach of get down, give me 10, give me that document by 5 o'clock today. But like, whereas when we're authentically ourselves and can kind of be in that comfortable space, we can still be professional and also open and welcoming and do you know what? Challenges through humor come a lot easier than challenges that are very direct.
Yeah, and also it's something that I see when it comes to personal growth. It's like we try to make it so serious, which a lot of times it also is not easy. But it's like, why not have fun along the way? Like you will have to walk the path anyways, so you might as well at least find some glimpses of fun in it.
Yeah, and look, like I do psychic readings as well as a bit of an extra thing that I do, and a lot of people kind of say, "Oh, like is what stuff's bad happening to me?" And it's like, isn't your life bad enough as it is? Like,
So true.
like, like, let's look at some of the good things that are going on.
Yeah. Yeah, that is so true. Well, this has been fun. Before I ask you the last question, where can people learn about you, connect with you, and find you online?
Okay, so I have a little Facebook page, Evolution Natural Therapies on Facebook, and that's it's kind of a bit messy at the moment. It's kind of got a bit of my fitness stuff, a bit of all the other stuff that I do on there. It's kind of that's just me though, trying to incorporate lots of different things into one homogenous thing, and it's not quite working, but it's there.
Baby steps.
No such thing as baby steps.
Okay, yeah, that's
Which
true.
could be a conversation for another day.
All right, then the last question I have is, what is one piece of wisdom you're still learning to live?
Oh, that I'm exactly where I'm meant to be right now, and that everything is working as it's meant to.
I love this. I love this. Well, thank you for coming on and
Thank you for having me.
sharing your wisdom, sharing your story behind it. And to the listeners, if you're an expert with 20 plus years of experience and you want to share your story on the podcast, we would love to feature you. Check out the show notes so that you can leave your details and we will get in touch with you. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you in the next episode.